Hey folks, welcome back to my channel, Relationship Haven. My name is Gary, and I hope you're all having a wonderful day or evening, wherever you are. In today's story, Opie found out his wife cheated on him with a female coworker and then had the audacity to move next to Opie as a neighbor after marrying the affair partner. As soon as she did this, karma happened immediately, and now her life is a disaster. I also have another story to share that involves a guy whose wife cheated on him with a man she had previously dated and hadn't seen in 11 years. Now, let's get into today's stories. I was cheated on in 2012 and 2013. My ex and I had started dating in 2007 and got engaged in 2008, but didn't get married until 2013. In the meantime, we bought a house together in 2012. A few weeks after we bought the house together, she started an emotional affair behind my back with another woman, a woman she occasionally interacted with at her job. I didn't find out about the affair until a year later. Around late May 2013, she and the affair partner added each other as Facebook friends and started flirting daily via Facebook messaging. The affair partner was markedly less discreet than my fiancé was, so I definitely noticed the affair partner's online presence. The affair partner was a mother of 6 children by 4 different men, and most of her kids had pretty severe problems due to a pretty terrible upbringing. The affair partner was also extremely severely uneducated, unemployed, and totally unemployable due to having all these kids to take care of. At the end of June 2013, we were finally ready to marry, and I started excitedly planning our wedding. However, my fiancée said she didn't want to be involved in the planning. She said she just wanted to show up at the actual wedding day and marry me and not have to do anything else. In September of 2013, I found out she had arranged to meet up with the affair partner in person under the pretense of celebrating or consoling the affair partner for becoming a grandmother under less than ideal circumstances. As soon as they met up, they were inseparable. They found excuses to keep meeting in person every single day that week, and it became obvious to me within the first 2 or 3 days that something was going on between them that should not be going on. She trickle-truthed me for a few weeks, but I asked her to choose between us. I desperately wanted her to choose me. Instead, she chose the affair partner. She asked for 2 weeks to make arrangements for a new place to live, and I said okay. I assumed she would move out and get an apartment alone somewhere like a halfway sane person, but no. She got her affair partner to kick out the father of the youngest of her 6 children, and then a day or two after the kids watched the baby daddy move out, my ex moved directly from the house we had bought together into the affair partner's house. Barely 1 week after that, so 3 weeks after calling off our own wedding, she legally married the other woman. At this point in time, I actually felt sorry for her, because it was becoming clear to me that she was making an even bigger mess of her own life than she had managed to make of mine. Even though she was pretty much my worst enemy by then, being legally married to the utter train wreck of a woman she'd chosen as her affair partner was an even worse fate than I would ever have wished on my worst enemy. So although I was badly hurt by the manner in which she had dumped me, I didn't necessarily bear any major ill will. I just wanted to finish the process of getting her out of my life so I could move on and never have to see her again. Soon after I had bought out my ex's share of the house that we had bought together, the two of them bought a house within 500 feet of it. They moved in within sight of my own front yard, the two of them and the affair partner's 6 children. They decorated their front yard like the newlyweds they were, covering it with giant heart-shaped garden art, and they sat outside on their front porch together for about 16 hours a day, every day, where I couldn't avoid having to see them together. I can only imagine what horrible parents they must have been, but I know they didn't seem to spend much time at all indoors. I was absolutely certain that part of my ex's goal in moving in so close to my house was to force me to let her back into my life in some capacity. I had moved away from all my own friends and family when I moved in with my ex, and I didn't know many people other than my ex in the town where I was now living, so it would have been convenient in some ways to be able to ask my ex to do little things like watch my pets when I was out of town, and I had a strong feeling that my ex was hoping for exactly that. I also strongly suspected that at some point my ex's marriage would fall apart and she'd try to finagle her way back into a relationship with me again as a result. She'd always been pretty brilliant at manipulating me, so I was terrified that she might actually somehow succeed at manipulating me all over again and manage to waste even more years of my life than she already had. So I put a great deal of effort into building up stronger emotional antipathy toward her. I hadn't started out hating her guts when she cheated on me, but I consciously trained myself to hate her guts because I didn't otherwise trust myself to be able to resist her efforts to come back into my life in one way or another and cause even more harm to me than before. The threat of that is over now. I'm very happily married to someone else, and I've finally sold the house that I bought with my ex. My ex's affair partner cheated on her and dumped her for a man. I live 50 miles away from my ex now, and with any luck, I should finally never have to see her ever again. But the anger, all the anger that I deliberately built up to protect myself from any effort she might make to come back into my life is still hanging around. It's not so useful to me now, but it remains a black cloud over my head. It interrupts my thoughts and puts me into angry moods when I could be having the time of my life. How do you get past this? How do you turn down the volume of the long-standing rage and fury so you can be more attuned to enjoying your new life instead of wasting any more time on your old one? Wow, Opie. The fact that your wife had the audacity to move next to you is shocking. I do agree with you that her moving right next to you was an attempt to win you back, and boy, did it absolutely backfire on her. I'm glad you were able to get out of that situation and have moved on with your life. Continue to work on yourself and become the best version of you. I wish you the best of luck moving forward. Let's now get into the second story for today. Well, never thought I'd be online asking strangers for help and support, but I don't know what else to do or where to turn at this point. I just found out yesterday that my wife of 8 years cheated on me a few days ago. We have two boys together, one almost 7 and one almost 3. We were high school sweethearts, but our emotions were too strong back then, so we broke up back then due to arguments over typical high school BS. We were broken up for 2 years total, give or take. When we reconnected, she had just left a relationship that lasted less than half of the time we were apart, and I had been celibate by choice and single the whole time. We hooked up the night we reconnected. She got kicked out of her parents' house the next day, but called her immediate ex instead of me because she said she didn't want to run back to me with the drama, etc. Understandable. I heard from her later in the day that she got kicked out, and I picked her up from his house. We've lived and been together ever since. Now, fast forward to Tuesday, July 5th. We haven't been great together lately, mostly due to stress. One day I went to work, and a little after lunch, she called saying her aunt wants to keep the boys for a couple of days if possible, and she wanted to know if I was okay with it. Honestly, I don't know if it was my gut or instinct or intuition, but I didn't really want the kids to go and couldn't give much of a reason for it. I get off work after a pretty long day driving for most of it, and they were all ready to go. I wish I had sucked it up and taken them now, but I had no reason to suspect anything, and I was tired, so I said, "You go ahead, just let me know when you get there and leave," etc. No big deal, I thought. I relaxed at home and invited my youngest brother over to hang out and play a game together. She left with our kids around 7-ish, when I got home and returned after midnight. I didn't think much of it as I was under the impression she was with family and our kids for the barbecue they had then headed home after. On her way home, she swung by a park that she hadn't told me about and cheated on me with the guy she left almost 11 years earlier, the one she had left before we reconnected. The next day I didn't work and we hung out a little more, but I noticed she was a little more distant than normal and didn't want me touching her much. I should have noticed then that something was up. The following day I worked again, and she made plans to pick up the kids. I got off work and came home, but forgot to let her know I was heading home. I went back and saw she was messaging someone on Facebook Messenger. I then caught a glimpse of the name as she moved her phone out of sight. When I asked who it was, she said it was her aunt and then quickly attempted to hide the phone. Being together this long, we have had all of each other's accounts and passwords, bank accounts, and everything. After seeing the name again, I realized it was the ex from years ago who she went no contact with after he messaged her at 3 a.m. on Valentine's Day after we were back together a few months in the beginning. I started screenshotting for proof in case she deleted it, and it turned out they had been talking for almost a month or so. The next night, she dropped our kids off while I was trying to work out the details of her stopping by on her way to get our kids. I then stepped outside before she had a chance to pull out of the driveway and told her I would go get the boys. I went in to change out of work clothes while screenshotting as much as I could find on her phone. She then noticed from the sound of the screenshots that something wasn't right and asked what I was doing. I didn't reply at first, but then said, "So, when were you going to let me know you just cheated on me?" Then came home like it was nothing, lying to my face, saying you love me, and kissing me. I won't ever forget the reaction she had. No shocked look or no, "I'm sorry," no anger either. She had the audacity to ask me what I was doing on her phone anyways, and that it was none of my business. That was the moment my world began crashing down around me. I took her phone to prevent any deleting or warning of the affair partner. We then argued on the way to her aunt's, and she started getting physical when we got back home. It completely blindsided me, and I had never in my life cried so hard or been so angry, much less at the same time. I found out he messaged her, and she actively chose to respond knowing she was a married woman. Supposedly, she had no intention to cheat, but less than a month later, she had gone through with it completely and showed no remorse or guilt until after getting caught. At this point, I didn't know what to think. It all feels very planned and like this was obviously the goal, otherwise why talk to him at all, much less hide it from me for a month. Update. I should also add she has been a stay-at-home mom for 7 years or so, other than a stint at a gas station before we got pregnant with our second. She did eventually show remorse once the defensive posture was lost, and I guess she realized how huge this was. I still don't know what to do though. Wow. What a sad story to hear. OP. In your case, the realization here is that a spouse will never forget their affair partner. You thought you had a secured and safe marriage only to find out your wife hadn't gotten over an ex that she hadn't been with for 11 years. The fact that she is showing no remorse means you know what to do. Expose her affair to her family, lawyer up, seek counseling, and go no contact. Best of luck to you, OP. Thanks for taking your time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's stories. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. One day my wife was invited to go to the movies. She really enjoyed any time she got out of the house because we had a very clingy 3-year-old boy. I was sympathetic and I made sure to share child duties, but I couldn't really help that I was the one out working and socializing with other adults. I knew it bothered her to give up her career, but we did what we could to keep each other going. We've been married for 7 years. She was all I had, and already I couldn't picture living my life without her. Maybe it was because we were meant to have our son together, but I know now that it wasn't because we were meant to be. On movie nights, she went with girls she used to work with. I was sitting with my son in the living room taking pictures of him when I decided to check Facebook. I was friends with one of my wife's work friends, and she posted a picture of all the girls in attendance that night with text that said, "P.S. Are you couldn't make it out with us tonight," and my wife's name was tagged. I felt my vision spin while panic set in. I didn't find out she was cheating, only that she was lying about where she went. I tried calling her phone and was very disappointed to hear it ringing upstairs. It was under her pillow. I thought that was an odd place for her to put her phone, and then I started to panic that she ran away from me. Since I was desperate for a clue, I got on her computer. I found the note on the desktop, and I was beyond scared at this point. It said in case something went wrong, she thought it was a good idea to put this on her laptop. She planned to meet her online friend at the hotel and casino about an hour away from her house. She put a different phone number than the one I had programmed. I called 5 times before she answered, sounding very worried that it was me. When I said it was me, a long pause followed. She said she was sorry. I asked if she was apologizing for cheating on me. Another painfully long pause. I couldn't believe this. She said yes and started crying. She said my voice was disarming and she didn't think I was going to find out so fast. I started calling her a lot of bad names while she tried to reason with me. I asked where she was and she said she was still in the casino. I didn't know whether I should tell her off and just hang up or tell her to come back home and we could pretend this never happened. I asked her who she cheated on me with, and she sighed. Suddenly, she shouted no, and I heard AP's voice. He said he waited a long time to meet her in person, but now she was ready to leave her boring life with me to be with him. My heart was shattered. I had real chest pain because of this phone conversation. I told him to be a man and put my wife back on the phone so we could discuss arrangements for our 3-year-old son. As he handed the phone back to her, I heard him tell her I wanted to talk about her son, and she was just really quiet. She asked when she could see him next, and I started screaming. I said that she was a terrible, terrible wife and mother, and she didn't deserve to see either of us ever again. I told her to never come back to me or expect any love from me ever again. I heard her voice before I hung up. I told her family about everything in one long Facebook message and changed the locks on our doors. I realized that over the past 6 years, I had anxiety about this very thing happening. I actually had visions of needing to change the locks when my wife cheated so that she couldn't just come back into my life and trick me into forgiving her. I refused to be like my father, who let my mother walk all over him and come in and out of my life. She tried calling me 7 times before I blocked her, so I considered 7 my lucky number to get through this ordeal. It only took my wife a week to try coming back. She left a note on the door saying she just needed her stuff, but she said she was sorry more than once and that she missed me. On July 14th, my lawyer called back with good news about the divorce, and just 7 short weeks later, I had my day in court to prove my wife was guilty of abandoning me and our son for AP. She admitted she had a long-distance relationship with him for at least 2 years. When my ex called me one evening months after the divorce, she said she made a huge mistake. She said it was the biggest mistake she would ever make in her entire life, and she didn't know if she could move on from it. She said she never should have started talking to AP because I was the one she was meant to have a family with. She said she already lost all the feelings she had for AP, but now she was trapped in his house with nowhere else to go. Her parents and a few distant relatives were never really involved in her life to begin with, which is why starting our family meant so much to us. I hope she regrets her actions enough to never do this again to anyone. For years later, and I'm remarried with a 7-year-old son and a baby on the way. My ex-wife from what feels like an eternity ago called me. I didn't answer it, but she left me a voicemail that said she was just wondering how I was doing and wanted to see if we could get together sometime because she finally ended her miserable relationship with AP and got a low-income housing apartment, but can barely afford it. She's really been struggling with paying her bills, and the affair she committed serves as a daily reminder of how she ended up in this situation. So her life took a 4-year-long detour, 6 years if you count, when she first started talking to AP, and she still ended up worse off than me. OP, your ex put you through hell. She set you up to believe she was going to the movies when she was meeting her AP of 2 years. She probably hoped she'd be able to keep returning home without you knowing what was really going on, but AP snapped the phone because he wanted your woman. Your wife already made her decision, but by lying and cheating on you, so you did the right thing when you told her off and made it clear she would not be getting another chance from you. She absolutely blew it, and I'm glad that feeling got to her. I can tell from your account that she was very remorseful, but that doesn't mean she deserves to ever be trusted again. Thank you for sharing your story, Opie. You certainly deserve a woman that will always choose you, openly communicate her feelings, listen to you, and treat you with respect. I wish you and your family the best of luck in life. Now, let's get into our second story for today. Here is my story. First off, I want to start by saying that a woman can go through criticism for the man she's chosen to marry. Those criticisms and concerns about her husband may or may not be true. Either way, you should always be sure to remember that the man under the microscope is a human too, and he might not like certain things about himself either, like any undesirable physical feature. And don't get me started on unwanted man emotions like aggression, anger, frustration, shame, fear, anxiety, or sadness. I know these are just normal emotions that everyone experiences, but if a man shows one or more of these too frequently, maybe he's just a person in need of help. Let me tell you what people said to my wife, which in turn made her slowly start to despise me. She started going to a women's group where they each got to talk about their feelings and how life was going at home. I was at home with our teenage kids. We were married for 17 years. My wife hadn't ever physically cheated on me up until this point, but she did have an emotional affair years ago with her stepbrother that I'd rather not talk about. I guess these women encouraged her to really let all the complaints she had about her family come to the surface. My wife knew I had a really messed up childhood. She knew I didn't know my father and my mother was neglectful, but yet she didn't think for a second that I didn't want to frequently experience anger, frustration, shame, sadness, or fear. When we first got married, she helped me through these emotions, but after so many years, she started to lose faith in me. She started to believe the ladies in her group and the lies my mother always told me, that I was unworthy and a mistake. What she didn't realize, though, was that she was proving herself to be just that. She was so disgusted with me that she decided she deserved a one-night stand after 17 years of marriage. She was terrible at lying, though, and not very sneaky. I quickly figured out where to find her, and she got a real show of my aggression. In front of all the neighboring people that could hear me through their walls, I basically attacked AP. I wanted to attack her, but for some reason I felt like I couldn't. I spent a night in jail, but I guess AP had more of a heart than my wife because he didn't press charges. I couldn't believe she was convinced I was the one with the problems that didn't deserve to have unconditional love from her. She had some kind of obsession with her own family, and it didn't paint a pretty picture in court. Our teenagers also found out what she did, and they were disgusted. They'll always remember as a fact that their mom cheated on their dad with her own uncle. I only hope they see her as an example of what not to be. From their reaction to it, I think that's how they're going to take it. They live with me full time and have awkward visits with their mom. I am most grateful for the fact that I was able to take custody of my kids and give them a safe place to live without the instability their mother accused me of. It's been 7 years since this happened, so our kids are in their 20s now. They've both moved out and keep in touch with both their mom and I, but they take their mother's words with a grain of salt because she once lost patience with their father, who counted on her to remain his wife and be there through the good times and the bad, for better or for worse. All things considered, I can't help but be grateful because I have more than I ever expected to have as a child. I have a big family with my adult children, second wife, and stepchildren. My wife never expected to remarry after losing her husband, but when we met, it was like fate knew we were two broken families that could combine into one. Opie, I am so happy to hear that since this terrible experience you've remarried and have a big, happy family. Your story is a testimony to men out there right now, hurting from a past relationship. Women need men, so they should be treating them with the same care and understanding as anyone else. If one woman gets you down or does something unforgivable, set her free and continue on your journey without her, even if she tries coming back. We are each on our own journey of healing and maturing. Never judge a book by its cover, and always be quick to understand that someone may not be as they seem or may be experiencing something that you can't relate to because you haven't had the same experience. I am proud of you for following through with divorcing your wife, even though you counted on this family to always be there. You had to be exceptionally strong to know that you could get through this, and it was the right thing to do. Only then can you be ready for a mature woman that knows how to respect and honor a man. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. We've been married for 5 years. We have a 4-year-old together, and she has 2 other kids from a previous marriage. They are preteens. About 2 months ago, we went to the mechanic shop to get her car serviced, and she kept talking to the guy there and looking at him. I ended up talking to him too, because I had a Raiders jersey on, and he said he was a big fan of the Raiders. Anyway, I work 10-hour days, and she absolutely hates that, but she is a stay-at-home wife. I pay all the bills, so I have to be away. She was seeing this guy we met at the car shop every day I was at work behind my back. 3 weeks ago, I came home, and she wrote me a text saying she was gone, and she was in love with this guy, and she believed he was her soulmate. I did my research, and the guy had no place to stay, so they all have been living in the car I paid for in different parks. You know what the sad part is? She left our 4-year-old behind and took the other 2 kids that are not mine. She has blocked me on everything. Family members have sent me posts of her saying how much happier she is now and how in love with her sexy man she is. It hurts to the core. I can't eat, sleep, or function at work. Worse, my daughter cries every night. Thank God my sisters and mom have stepped up to take care of her while I work, and they watch her full time on the weekend. It's like I'm numb and don't know what I did so wrong. I took care of her, loved her when she was sick, and loved her children. The worst thing she said I did was work too much, and that I didn't have time for her. Well, sorry, I'm the only one paying bills, and it sucks so bad. The other worst part is last night, she had the cops beating on my door. When I opened up, it was her and the cops. They were escorting her in to get her things. I'm so glad our daughter was sleeping. She gathered up some more clothes and told me to toss the rest, and that she would never be back. I looked outside, and the guy she was with was sitting in the passenger seat. I am beyond livid. Oh yeah, and she texted me this morning asking if I had gas money for her and if I'd pay the car note. She said she would talk to me face to face, but only if I did that for her. I didn't respond. I am numb. Yes, I worked a lot. I'm sorry I didn't have time to take you to the movies or a special dinner, but we have never been hungry. We have a beautiful house, and I always gave her anything she asked for. Why not communicate so I could have worked on being a better husband and father? My wife is so beautiful. I thought I was lucky, but now I see the real her. Update. I met up with her at the gas station by the house. When she was crying on the voicemail, I gave in. Sorry, I'm only human. I do love her, but I am done with her now. When I got to the gas station, I was shocked to see her, as I think people are right that she is on drugs. My wife was already small, but she is bony now. She always used to dress beautifully, even when in casual clothes, but she was in literal sweatpant racks. I gave her $200 for food and gas. Her guy was in the car, as well as my kids. I said, I will take the kids, please. They can go to school or your family can pick them up. She said no. She wanted her kids with her, that they were no longer any of my concern. This killed me inside as I've been their dad for 5 years. They called me dad, and I love those kids with my heart and soul. She refused to say if they were in school, don't worry. I called CPS today and left a voicemail. I said, you have another kid, remember? She said, yeah, I love her and miss her, but right now I do not want to be in her life, and she needs to respect that and get over it. She is better off with you. She literally said, I don't want to be in her life. I said, are you in love with that guy? She said yes, she was. She made it clear that she didn't want to talk about it. I said, oh, I wanted a divorce, and she said no, that she didn't want to discuss that either. She does not want to give me a divorce. Well, shocker, I am getting in contact with a lawyer. Then she said I must pay the car note on Friday. I said, nope, not going to happen, or your phone bill. She said he would pay her phone bill, but that I would pay my car note because it was my car. It is in my name, though, so that will be a fight for me in the future. Whatever. Not arguing. Bye-bye. But the craziest thing was she said I love you loud as hell as I walked away. I didn't even turn around or say it back. That was it for me. Oh, my birthday is tomorrow, and I asked if I could take the kids out to eat with me. I plan on going to my favorite steakhouse with my daughter and family. I would love for them to come. She said absolutely not. So I said, are you really sleeping in Parks and Y? She got upset and said I needed to mind my business. So, yeah, folks, thank you so much for all your advice. I was scared to call CPS, but I did it. I just feel like this is a long emotional battle that I am already drained of. Update. My wife showed up at the house demanding car payment money Friday night. I told her I was not paying it, and she said that she wanted to talk about coming back to me. I said, no, I do not want you here. Please leave. There is no car money. I am not paying it. She refused to leave and brought the kids into the house. I called the police and they came. She said it was her house and I told them the situation. They asked her to leave and she said, okay. She told me she would be filing for divorce on Monday, and I told her I already had a lawyer working on it as she was pulling out of the driveway. I saw a van at the end of the driveway, and it was her guy waiting for her. Our daughter was not home on the weekend. She likes to stay with my mom, so I'm thankful she was not there to see the big drama. Not that her mom even asked about her or asked how she was. I told the cops my kids were living in her car and they needed to go check the car because she had everything in the back seat as well as her dog living in the car. She lied and said they were living in a motel and all of that stuff in her car was from her taking it from the house when she left. She went outside and talked to the cops. I'm so over the drama. When she came into the house, she was acting very weird. It was night and she had on sunglasses. I told her to take them off and it looked like she had a black eye. I asked her what happened and she said it was from lack of sleep. She looked a lot better than the last time I saw her though. Some note I did not pay the car payment. I feel guilty. I know people wanted me to report it stolen, but I feel like my kids are going through a very traumatic time. The principal of their school as well as CPS has all the information. I wouldn't mind taking the kids in and raising them myself, but I feel like right now they would be better off with her family as they are aware of the situation as well. So tonight I got a ding, and it was her asking me to pay for medicine for my daughter because they were all coming down with COVID or the flu. I ignored it and I went back and forth about blocking her. For some reason I couldn't. My daughter called and she did sound stuffy, so I said, can we meet at CVS? She said yes, and we met up. I bought them some stuff. He was not with her. I also bought them some food. She said, can we talk? I said no. As soon as I got back home, my son texted from her phone asking me if he could come to visit me next week. I said I really didn't know that he should be focused on school and that I would see them soon. This is very draining for me. I'm feeling like I might block her number for now, at least until I meet with my lawyer next week. I am feeling extremely guilty for not paying the car payment, but I'm standing my ground about it. Update. Well, she's back begging to come home. She said she was sorry and that she has broken up with the guy. She called me to pick our son up. He told me he was tired of sleeping in the car and he tried to run away. I told him he could come home. He's here now. She let him come. My daughter said she wanted to stay with her mom. Shortly after, I got a text saying she was sorry and that it was a bad decision. She said she has been alone this past week and she is talking about suicide, saying she is done with life. I told her she couldn't come here and that I was sorry that the guy was treating her badly today. I thought they were doing good and she said that I really didn't know her. She was having a nervous breakdown and mental issues. She didn't know what to do but run. Update. Well, my wife is still on the streets with this. My son was with me. He wanted to come home. He was tired of living on the streets, so he begged to come home. She agreed and I agreed. My daughter wanted to stay with her mom, but she decided last week to come home too. Well, she was home for all of 2 days. When she came home from school one day, she ran away. We found her underneath a bridge close to our house. She is going through mental issues and I'm trying to get her some help. I am filing for divorce, and when I told my wife, she cried and told me that she was sad but she was in love with that guy. Fast forward to a few days ago. She called me crying saying this guy was acting up. He told her he felt like he was taking on too much with her and that he needed to take a step back. He's only 24 years old and he said at first he felt the connection strongly, but he just wanted to focus on himself. She called me crying and upset. She came and got the kids and all their clothes. She said she was going to LA to get into the homeless program there. I asked her not to take the kids, and she said no. She wanted the kids with her, and she thanked me for everything. She then asked if we could talk about us getting back together. I calmly told her that would not happen. She hurt me too bad, and I couldn't just go back to the past. I forgive her, but I am numb now. I just want a divorce and to raise the kids. I told her we could at least do that so they could be happy and we didn't have to be together to make that happen. She left the house and I got a call this morning. She said she was going to end herself today. She thanked me again and said she was done with living. Everyone had hurt her. She tried to make me feel guilty. I just called the cops and explained to them she had my kids and threatened to harm herself. I don't know where she is. Every time I feel a little closer to being myself and happy again, she does something that pulls me back into an abyss of darkness and hell. The stress will kill me for sure. Update. She didn't harm herself. She just went missing. A few days ago, she dropped the twins off at her doorstep. They are now safely with me. They are back into the routine of eating every day consistently, taking showers, and having fun in her backyard as kids do. All three of them are really hanging close to each other. Our 4-year-old is smiling again. She loves having her brother and sister here with her. Last night they all begged me to order pizza and watch a movie, so I said yes. Okay, let's do it. This was the happiest I've been in months. Just looking around at my kids laughing and having a good time. I am content right now, but I still have anxiety that she will show up and snatch them away from me. I've been in constant contact with CPS just in case, because I have a strong feeling she is coming around soon. She's only called once since dropping them off, telling me that she is with her boyfriend and they are more in love than ever. She says that he has inspired her to get a job and start making her own money so they could get home together and that she will be back for the twins. So right now she is supporting his dreams and he is supporting hers. Yeah, okay, cool. She also apologized for threatening to harm herself. She said she was just stressed. I'm done with her madness. Just focusing on me and the kids. I am also planning on taking them on a mini vacation at the end of October, Disney World. Her phone bill was due Friday and Verizon sent me a reminder. I did not pay it and I called them to see if I could somehow get out of the contract because not paying eventually will end up on my credit report. So I'll more than likely have to pay money to break the contract. Either way, she's costing me money. I forgot to tell you guys her weed man showed up at our house. I had no idea who this guy was and what he wanted. I saw him on Ring and asked him what was up. He said he needed to talk to my wife. I said she was not my wife and that we were divorcing. I asked, "Who are you?" He said, "Can I come to the door? It's urgent." Ken, I said no. He told me that my wife had run up a weed tab of close to $2,000 and she had not paid him. He wanted his money. I'm floored in shock. He said that my wife told him I would pay him. I said no, I had nothing to do with it and asked him to leave. So, he said if I see your wife it's going to be a problem. Immediately I called her and she sent me to voicemail. So, yeah, great, some other bullshit she's brought upon me. I'm thinking of calling the cops to tell them my wife has been giving out our address to strange people who are showing up at my door. Can they do anything? Final update. Last weekend one of the twins got sick and I had to rush her to the ER. They told me she had appendicitis and had to get her appendix removed. I called her mom, who took about 40 minutes to arrive. She came in with her boyfriend. Immediately I got pissed off and told him to leave because I had my 4-year-old and the other twin with me. I didn't need this guy around, so he was acting calm, telling me we needed to go somewhere and just talk man to man. I told him no and that I had nothing to say to him. The entire time my soon-to-be ex-wife was telling me to stop. She didn't even rush to the back to check on our daughter. She just stood there and tried to console him as I was telling him to piss off. I could tell my kids were getting upset, so I went to another part of the hospital and left them standing there holding onto each other. The doctors told me my daughter's surgery will be an emergency surgery that morning, and her mom heard that. Well, guess what she asked? Just how long would it be, because her new stud had to go to work and she was his ride. I told her to just go leave. Just go take him to work. At that point I'd been there for a little over 2 hours myself, and that whole line at home my daughter, who is 13, cried in stomach pain. So my wife said, yeah, I'll be back before she goes back into surgery. I'll just drop him off at work. Well, that was last week and we haven't seen her since. She never came back to the hospital. She did call yesterday to ask how it went and if she could come to get some food. I told her if she showed up I'd call the cops. I've also asked her to surrender the vehicle she's in that I pay for and is in my name, or I would get the cops involved. I'm beyond over her and so disgusted with her. When I made that original post, yeah, I had a little hope she would come back to me. Now I have nothing at all for her. She even told me on the phone I sounded harsher and harsher with her. I'm trying to get full custody of these kids. Yeah, they're my stepkids, but I will not under any circumstances let them go back with her. She will have to call the police on me first. I can tell the kids are conflicted. They love her, of course, and they want the old her back, but she is gone. They are hurting waiting for her to show up, but she is gone. Gone in love, gone in drugs. It's the truth. I've accepted the situation for what it is. I have a divorce lawyer. She said she would never sign the papers because she didn't want a divorce. She wanted me to understand that she was just going through a life crisis and to accept it. I don't care. She can do what she wants, but she can't drag us in the middle of it anymore. The locks were changed on Monday. She has no place here. No home to come to. The car will be out of her possession soon, as well as when I pay off her phone bill. I finally realized and came to grips with the fact that the reason she was able to continue to hurt us was that I was still waiting and wishing for that old person that I fell in love with to show up. But the old person didn't just leave. This is who she was all along, and by enabling her and allowing her access to me and her kids freely, everyone was damaged. She has to be cut off completely. This is scary because she can take her kids anytime because legally I never adopted them. I am ready to fight the good fight when it comes down to it. My wife has a younger sister with whom she was very close. They would talk every day when my wife was living at home and her old self. Her sister called me crying. She has not spoken to her and will not answer any of her calls. When my wife first left me, she was talking to her sister. Then she also blocked her sister on social media. My wife's mom said my wife was on drugs and that all they could do was pray for her. Apparently, she and the mechanic have been seen around town begging for money and food. They are staying in a ragged motel across town, and when they can't afford that, they just sleep in the car together. Oh, and she told me she pawned her wedding rings. Yep, both rings I got her. Gone. Straight up told me to my face. The great news is my wife's family doesn't really want to take care of the twins because they have a lot going on in their own lives, so nobody is fighting me to take them. My wife agreed some weeks ago the twins will be with me until she finds a stable home. She told me she might even go into a homeless program and she will be back for them then. I am filing for emergency custody next week. Wow, Opie, please speak to your stepkids privately and make sure neither of them was abused by the guy or his junkie friends. Guys like this mechanic are taking advantage of vulnerable people regardless of age, especially when there are drugs involved. Be perfectly clear you're there to protect and support them, and you want to make sure they know they have someone in their corner. Tell them they don't have to call you dad, but to you they're your kids and you'd do anything for their well-being. Stepkids need to hear that. You've completely expressed it, but sometimes the words matter too. I'm sorry you're all going through this. Those kids are very lucky to have a father like you. At least you still have a family in the kids, and they'll always appreciate what their father sacrificed for them. I do some documenting regarding the kids. How long you've been providing for them, what you've been providing in the way of health insurance or other official documentation, that you own the home they're registered at school with, stuff like that. That way, when you look towards adopting them or even just trying to them instead of giving them to social services, you'll have proof of history and care. Good luck, Opie. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed this story, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also comment below with your thoughts on what happened. For months after my wife and I celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary, there was a fire in our apartment complex. I was at work when it started, and apparently my wife was sleeping until it became an emergency situation for her. She told me the smoke was fogging up the apartment really badly by the time she woke up. She was conscious for a few minutes, attempting to breathe in fresh air from the vents or by cracking a window. The next thing she remembers is a firefighter carrying her to safety. As she was being treated by the ambulance, he stayed by her side, taking off his helmet and staring into her eyes as he spoke to her. She was a beautiful woman, so it didn't surprise me that she received extra attention from the man that saved her. The part one did have a problem with was that their contact continued after this day. While she was in the hospital, the firefighter gave her his phone number. We'll call him Edward for this recount of events. Before she was even discharged, she got WhatsApp on her phone and started texting him with updates about her health, or even what she was up to each day. By reading the messages, you could tell he was smitten. She never mentioned being married, and I'm disappointed to say that it was only a matter of days before she started referring to him as her savior, expressing that she trusted him to protect her and sending him nudes. While I was at work, she invited him over to where we were staying while the apartment building was repaired. We were staying with a traditional Catholic couple that would not support her affair, so she took care to plan his visits when no one would be home for hours. My wife didn't return to work after the fire because she had trouble breathing for a while after the accident. It was the perfect storm to end my marriage. I know my wife only developed feelings for Edward because he saved her from that fire. It was a near-death experience, and people can change after those. On the day she was caught, I returned from work to find a shocking scene unfolding. The Catholic couple had just returned home from work to discover my wife and Edward making love on their living room couch. Talk about embarrassing and traumatizing for everyone involved. I started to shake as I approached all four of them arguing on the front lawn. The Catholic wife was yelling at Edward within inches from his face, asking if he had any morals at all or if he had any idea what was going on. He mostly shook his head, just wanting to get out of there. He quietly admitted he had no idea she was married and was under the impression that he was welcome to stop by for visits with her. I told him to leave, knowing my wife would have to be the one to explain herself. That's when the four of us sat in the living room to talk, and my wife broke down. She admitted she had feelings for him and chose to start the affair. I started bawling, of course. I didn't see any of this happening to us, especially not after our happy 10-year anniversary celebration. I told her she would have to choose between me or Edward. She said she couldn't choose. That was the last straw for me, so I chose for her. The next morning, I grabbed her phone while she was sleeping and went out. I was able to read through all the incriminating WhatsApp messages with the lawyer. Through this, we discovered that their emotional affair became physical as soon as my wife was discharged from the hospital. That was about 3.5 months that I was unknowingly sharing my wife, so I talked everything over with my lawyer and proceeded to kick her out for the time being while I got ready for the divorce. She then moved in with Edward. During that time, she was outcast from the community we grew to be a part of over the past 10 years. It didn't seem to matter to her, and she became pregnant with their baby in just 3 months. After 9 months of them being together, he dumped her. Rumors I heard were that the baby wasn't his and she had cheated on him with someone else. While 6 months pregnant, she searched for a place to stay or live, but to no avail. Eventually, she swallowed her pride and asked me to take her back. That notion made me laugh out loud. After I denied her, she had no choice but to stay in a shelter for women. I sold our apartment for more than expected and got used to the new single life. All of this was really hard to go through, but I do want people to know that life carries on anyway. I think the biggest lesson for me in all of this is to never take anything for granted, but also to never expect or demand anything. I go through life longing for nothing but greatly receiving what's given to me. Sometimes my ex still reaches out to me and I'll respond to her, but it's mostly out of pity. She updates me on her situation periodically, and each time it seems like our qualities of life get farther and farther apart. I know she'll never reach the level of maturity I've had to reach after handling the emotional pain she dealt me. Wow. Up. That was quite a twisted and emotionally draining experience. I am sorry you lost someone you love to an unexpected situation and intruder. In life experiences like this, it's as if our character and what we're made of are tested. She showed you that 10 years of faithful marriage didn't mean as much to her as he did. This obviously proved to be a really stupid decision on her part, but even if he didn't leave her as fast as he did, it still would have been foolish for her to pick a stranger over her husband. Congratulations on handling yourself in the wisest way through a very difficult and life-altering situation. I wish you nothing but the best of luck going forward in life. Now for today's second story. I am sorry for the length. First, some background. My wife and I are both 30 with no kids and come from a large family. Both her parents have 6 to 8 siblings. From this, she has many cousins and second cousins. The families have known each other for generations, so are close. The wife is very close to 7 or 8 women. In the last few years, there have been many marriages, including our own, and baby showers, some of which have legendary status. I will explain below. All these gatherings are huge productions and well attended. Last weekend was a Christmas gathering. The family rented out a venue to fit everyone. This gathering was her mother's side of the family. Eventually, after going around greeting everyone, the close cousins settle in with each other and their SOs. The conversation came around to a bridal shower that happened last summer. Because the family is so big, they had 2 showers. One was hosted by the older parents, aunts, and grandma. The other is hosted for the younger relatives. The cousins started reliving the shower with much laughter. The SOs were just sitting there smiling as we watched them enjoying the moment. One of the cousins started to start a story pointing at another, but was hushed. There was an awkward moment with these looks between each other. Now the SOs are curious, me included. We wanted to hear the story, but the subject was changed and any attempt to bring it up was shut down. I walked away to get some dessert and drinks. As I was hanging out by the bar, another of the SOs came up to me. He asked if I really wanted to know what happened. Of course I said yes. He took me outside. He pulled out his phone and swore me to secrecy. He had snooped on his wife's phone and found a short video of the shower. The young cousins and friends, about 20 to 25 people, shower had included strippers. Think dancing bear type. The video shows the guys dancing naked with the women laughing and screaming. The video shows the stripper going down the line in front of each woman seating on a bench along a wall. The video is shot from the end of the line. In profile is my wife. She is third in line. Just as the stripper moved to the next woman, there was a large roar, and the video scanned across the room to the other stripper. Then you hear, "Turn that off, no videos." The video ends. At the time I asked the wife about the shower. She said it was fun, but it was just a shower. She never went into detail. I dropped it at that time. Now with this news, months later, I am not sure how to handle it. I can't tell her I saw the video without revealing how I saw it. Update. Here is an update to my post the other day. I asked my wife what went on at the shower. She at first said it was just a shower. I told her I know more than just a shower took place. She looked at me for it seemed like an hour. She took a deep breath and then told me they had strippers. She actually seemed embarrassed. I asked how all that came about. She tells me that at previous showers, some of the games they played and conversations had increasingly become more raunchy. The older women did not like it and tried to shut it down. The younger relatives decided they would hold their own showers, and the older relatives could have their more traditional showers. After that, the raunchiness got turned up a notch. Finally, a couple of years ago, in a shower, a stripper was brought in. It was the typical dancer that did his act to the screams of the crowd. Then he left. Nothing happened with the crowd. It embarrassed the bride. The cousins and friends were really divided about it. When the ringleader got engaged, there was some payback. The strippers were hired knowing the type of show they put on and the participation it would generate. It did the trick as the bride-to-be hid in another room during the performance. I asked what kind of participation was there. She said the guys danced really close to some of the women, pulling some up to dance with them. I told her that I didn't have a problem with strippers at the shower, then asked why she didn't tell me unless there was something more to it. She then got quiet. I let the silence hang in the air. She was waiting me out, I think. I then said I saw a video of the strippers. I asked if there was anything else. Again, silence. Then she said some of the girls got carried away. I asked her to go on. After hesitating, she admitted to what was on the video. After more silence, I told her I saw her. At this point, she started crying and said, "I swear I didn't do anything. You have to believe me. Ask my sister." As she cried more and more, I told her I saw her sitting along the wall as the stripper worked his way down the line. She said, "Then you know my sister," and I got up off the bench and got away from him. I told her the video didn't show that, and that it cut away. I asked if her sister would confirm what she said. She said to call her. I video called her sister from the wife's phone. She was in shock when I told her why I was calling. The sister verified what the wife had said, so I am believing what happened. I did tell the sister to tell her husband, because this is going to get out. Now I am dealing with my wife, who is mad that I assumed she cheated, but at the same time ashamed she never told me. We have some work to do. Opie, her silence speaks volumes here. She was actively hiding what happened because she knew it was wrong. There is a serious lack of honesty from her here, and while it appears she didn't do anything inappropriate, you had to pry the information from her in an escalating fashion. I'm sorry to tell you this, but this marriage is over. There's nothing left to work on. The damage has already been done. I truly hope for your sake that her sister is telling the truth on what happened and isn't trying to cover up for her in any way. Anyways, please keep us posted on what happens. I'm curious to hear about the aftermath of this. Also, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel if you aren't already, so you can hear what OP does next. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and comment below with your thoughts on what happened.